Hello ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Star Wars Cantina. Today I'm going to discuss a question or statement more accurately, that I've been seeing more and more since The Last Jedi came out, and really since 2015 when The Force Awakens came out, which is, Disney killed Star Wars, or did Disney kill Star Wars? But today, I want to kind of ask another question and discuss my reasons for this question, which is, did Disney kill or save Star Wars? So without further ado, let's just get right into this. As we all know, Star Wars is a franchise that has survived for over 40 years thanks to a dedicated and passionate fan base. Going as far back as Empire and Return of the Jedi, there has always been criticism and claims of the franchise being, quote, dead. Especially with the prequels, people have been making outrageous claims of Star Wars being killed. So really, this is nothing new. We've experienced this before, and it really happens with every trilogy, it seems like, or even every movie. Empire started out being hated as much as The Force Awakens or any of the prequels, but now is considered one of the best Star Wars films by many fans, or the best Star Wars film by many fans. Return of the Jedi released with lots of criticism of Richard Marquand just chucking the story and themes that had been set up by the previous two films out the window to throw in that Leia is Luke's sister, and wild teddy bears beating an all-around superior military force with sticks and rocks. Today, the originals, including Jedi, are deemed as, quote, peak Star Wars. And some fans even go so far as to say nothing can ever compete with them, even after 40 years. The prequels were criticized for years for their overuse of CGI and below average or even straight up bad writing. Now, after 20 years, The Phantom Menace is considered one of the great Star Wars films for introducing us to the character of Anakin Skywalker before he was Darth Vader, and starting us on his journey from slave boy with a dream to Jedi Knight to Sith Lord. With that being said, Attack of the Clones is still unforgivable just because of how cringeworthy most of the dialogue is, especially between Anakin and Padme. It's just, no. We can never forgive that. That's just actually the worst thing to ever exist. I'm pretty sure a lot of people can agree with that. And now more than ever, the outcry of this great franchise being dead seems louder than ever. But is Star Wars really dead, though? Or did Disney actually save the universe we love so much? After the prequels, we got nothing from Lucas himself for years. Plans for a live-action show got thrown away, and the ideas he had for the next trilogy never saw the light of day. The EU was the only thing keeping the universe alive, and Lucas himself admitted he didn't view any of the books or materials associated with the EU as, quote, canon. If Lucas did get around to making the sequel trilogy, the movies would have been completely different from anything we saw in the EU material that was built up for decades. So, either way, the expanded universe would have still been ignored, but might not have been completely thrown away as Disney did with it. When Disney bought Lucasfilm and took over everything, we almost immediately got news of a brand new trilogy of Star Wars movies. Sure, Disney threw away all the stories that were created long before they were in control, which upset a lot of fans. But besides the EU being dethroned and not considered relevant anymore, we have to look at the effort Disney has put in to restore the franchise to its former glory. They put Star Wars back on the map, and whether you enjoy them or not, we have gotten some of the highest quality Star Wars films ever. With the release of Episode 7 way back in 2015, Disney opened the door for brand new stories and lore to be created, and gave the opportunity for writers and other creators to explore new areas of the universe. Along with opening the door for new stories and lore, Disney also made a cohesive story where all the parts of the films and the new EU fit together and built on one another. Does this mean that everything about the Disney acquisition has been good, though? No, it doesn't. As with everything else, nothing is perfect. With the exploration of new lore and cohesive EU stories also comes Disney's overall business model with Star Wars. That being, at least to me, that they perfectly craft the films, especially the sequel trilogy, to give you just enough if you enjoy space wizards and laser swords, to have a good time watching the films, but if you actually care about the overall story and lore, you'll want, or be forced to, go out and buy all the books and comic books that explain the plot holes left in the films. I think all Star Wars fans can agree that's a pretty crappy thing to do, especially since up until Disney, the EU was mostly left to expanding upon stories and lore instead of being required reading to fully understand the story and plot of the films. With that being said, does that mean the new films themselves, namely 7 and 8, are bad? No, it doesn't. The films themselves, as previously stated, are some of the highest quality Star Wars films we've ever gotten, with the acting, writing, practical, and CGI effects all fitting seamlessly together to get us lost in the Star Wars galaxy. But, as with everything else in the world, there are always going to be people who won't like something. I don't think the sequels or Disney Star Wars is actually hated any more than Empire, Jedi, or the prequels were when they first reached audiences. It's just, with the power to know what anyone is thinking at any time through social media, it's incredibly easy to spread hate and misinformation now more than ever. At the end of the day, actually talking to other fans in person has made me realize that the new films aren't hated as much as Twitter or other social media platforms would make you think. The problems with Disney Star Wars lie in that they threw away decades of old EU stories that fans knew, loved, and came to cherish almost as much as the films, and that their business model of milking fans for as much money as they possibly can does not sit well with a lot of people, which is entirely valid and understandable. In the end, the question of if Disney killed or saved Star Wars is completely up to the individual. You can either love or hate the new stories, and that's your opinion, but that's where it should stay, with you. Too many people on the internet try way too hard to ruin people's enjoyment of the new Star Wars and try, but ultimately fail, to convince people that Star Wars is dead. If you don't like the new stuff, don't watch or read it. Don't try and ruin other people's enjoyment just because the stories don't live up to your expectations or what you think Star Wars should be. Everyone sees Star Wars differently. There's no right or wrong way to interpret or consume it. It comes down to enjoying Star Wars however you want to enjoy it. And if your opinions or views don't line up with someone else's, that's fine. So, with all that being said, is the Star Wars franchise dead, and did Disney kill it? No. Star Wars is alive now more than ever in the past 14 years since Revenge of the Sith was released way back in 2005. The stories coming from the creative teams at Disney are rich, powerful, and most importantly to me, fit together into one overarching plot. Going back to the live-action show I mentioned earlier, we're now getting at least 2 of those thanks to Disney. The Mandalorian, which is set to release this fall, and it's looking very likely that we're going to get a live-action series focused on Obi-Wan Kenobi, something fans have wanted for a very long time now. With the new films, shows, comics, books, a theme park, and so much more being created for the franchise, it's far, far from being dead. Now, more than any time in the past decade, it's a great time to be a Star Wars fan. There are downsides still, though, namely the lack of Star Wars video games and other things like that, but that's a topic for another video. And that is all I had. So, ultimately, is Star Wars dead? Did Disney kill it? The answer is no. But if you don't like the sequels, you are entitled to your opinion, that is perfectly fine, but there is a certain line to be drawn between not liking something and saying you don't like something, and still complaining about a movie you don't like over a year after it was released. If you don't like the new Star Wars, don't watch it. It's that simple. At the end of the day, people will enjoy what they want to enjoy, and they will interpret Star Wars however they want to interpret Star Wars. And that's the beauty of it. There is no right or wrong way to watch, consume, or interpret Star Wars. It's left completely up to the individual, and no one person's opinion is more or less valid than another. But that is where I'm going to leave you, as I am all out of time for this video. If you enjoyed this, slap a like on it, If you want more content about anything and everything Star Wars, click that big red subscribe button down there and click the little bell icon so you get notified every time I upload. And if you want to have a discussion, conversation, debate with me, or if you have a different opinion about Disney, Star Wars, or anything I talked about in this video, you can put it down in the comments. I would love to talk to you. And if you want more of the Cantina on a regular basis, you can follow us on Twitter at OuterRimCan. The link for that will be down in the description. And with that, I'm out of here. We'll see you guys in the next one. May the Force be with you.